Yeah.
Good evening. It is slightly past 7, but I would welcome you to the Village of Webster Board meeting May 27, 2001. So if you would stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Jude, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Good evening, and I would like to begin the meeting not in terms of our scheduled business, but with a special presentation. This is Historic Preservation Month, and we have our village historian with us this evening to make a presentation regarding the activities, or at least the significance of the month. So, Lynn Martin, would you please take it from here?
That mic's on, and you can tell me when to change the slide. Okay.
So I was just going to highlight one building in the village. I've had people ask me questions about it, and also Cynthia Hout from the Landmark Society contacted me because she knows a lady who has done a lot of history and documentation on opera houses, and that was a building that had an opera house. So I wanted to put together a little history on that building because it is Preservation Month and it's good to preserve the history, right? So as you recognize that building up there, that's a recent one. So that's 5 to 7 East Main Street. And I'm going to talk about what it was, well, what its history was. You can change the slide. Okay, this is the original building that sat on that property. This was Safford Mason bought this property, as far as I can tell, from a Mr. Pratt. And if you can look in the background, you can see the Corning House, which is now the Willard Scott Funeral Home, and that faces South Avenue. And you'll also notice that the Hawley block, the corner store where Jeff's Computer is today, that hasn't been built yet. So Safford ran that, and his son George eventually took over, and he tore it down. Now this photo is, the photo was taken, it has to have been between 1875 and 1880, which is kind of, that's one of the earlier photos that I think I have. You can turn to the next slide. And this is George Mason. I have quite a few different photos of him. We're very lucky to have a lot of history on him. He was a very influential businessman in the village. Next photo, please. So this is, okay, yeah. George built this building. He tore down the original one and built a 3-story structure in 1884, and it was known as Mason's Hall. It had 3 stories. The main floor was the drug and general store. The second floor, it had a large room known as Mason's Hall, where most public meetings were held, including town elections. The top floor was known as Mason's Opera House, where musical plays took place and lodges held their meetings. In 1900, George sold the business and building to Dr. Elvin Main and J.R. Hawley because he went into the banking business in the village. You can see the corner building has been built. That was built in 1880. That's right next door to it, right at the 4 corners. You can turn to the next slide. This is the interior of the original store that George built, and that's George behind the counter. The next one, that's on the east side of the building, and the next slide will show the other side. Next slide, please. This was taken during the 1895 campaign for president with William McKinley and Garrett Hobart as his running mate. You can see the next door house. It's hard to see because this is a small screen. The next door house just past George's building was part of the property I believe it was purchased by Safford as part of the whole parcel. And that was later the site of the Jane and Mason Bank. You can turn to the next slide. This slide or photo was taken shortly after 1906, after the Jane and Mason Bank was built. You can see it right there. And that was built in 1906. This shows a 3-story building after Dr. Main and J.R. Hawley were operating the drug and general store. George Hawley had not yet sold his business to George H. Whitmer, and a lot of us remember the Whitmer store. And he sold it to the Whitmers in 1907. You can see the post office between the bank and George's 3-story building. George built that, I think, in 1898. I think they had changed the laws concerning postal postmasters, because a lot of them had they collected the mail in their own personal businesses. And that was kind of not a good idea anymore, so George went ahead and added on to his building and built a post office, which is now full insurance. The next slide, please. So business, once again, this is 1907, I believe. Business changed hands and was called Harris and Leedy in 1907. In 1913, Mr. Leedy bought both the business and the building from Mr. Harris. In 1925, Mr. Leedy divided the store and sold the drug stock to Mr. Frank Lucas. Mr. Lucas was able to purchase the building in 1946. He paid Arthur Leedy with half the price paid in quarters that he had saved in a piggy bank. Now the next one, please. This is just another early view of that building. It's not quite as ornate as I guess as it was originally. The next one, Frank sold his entire stock from the drugstore in 1968 to Walter Weiner. Wally had purchased a small corner store business of pharmacist Milton Case, which was on the corner of Lapham Park and East Main Street, also in 1968. So circa 1970, the owner removed the 3rd story of the building, which was the original Opera House. It's unknown if Frank Lucas still owned the building at that time or if he sold it around 1968. And the Tausch family may have purchased it from Frank. I can't say that's a fact. These are photos of the top being removed. And also the other photo at the bottom shows the interior of the building as they had windows completely all the way around. There are a couple of photos that were taken from probably the roof of that building. So you can get a really nice, it's like an aerial view. There's only 2 of them that I know of that would have been taken from that building. According to Carolyn Cortori, who lives here in the village, she was a pharmacist who worked for Frank. She remembers Frank taking her upstairs to the 3rd floor and seeing a stage at one end. The museum has one of the lanterns that lit the upstairs at one time. According to a friend of Frank Lucas, they were around the room to provide light. We have one at the museum, donated by Frank's friend. And then the last photo is after the top was removed. That's an early renovation. And I don't know, maybe some of you guys can give me a date on that truck, but I'm thinking it is 1970 something. And Tausch Travel is in the building. So there are still a couple of mysteries to solve, but it is a building with quite a bit of history. And we're lucky to have as much as we have on the Mason, George Mason. So anyway, that's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice. Very nice.
You can see the progression. Then you see the progression of horse, and then I think bicycle to truck or car vehicle very early, and then to end up with cars and modern trucks.
Yeah.
progress. Also from a dirt road
Mm-hmm.
to a paved one.
Yeah.
Very interesting progression. Nice history. If you don't mind, Peter, I'll read it. I have a proclamation, Historic Preservation Month proclamation, and I would like to read it in whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And resolve that I, Darrell Byers, Mayor of the Village of Webster, and the Webster Village Board of Trustees, do recognize May 2021 as National Preservation Month and call upon the people of the Village of Webster to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. Again, Lynn, thank you very much for this bit of history, and a number of those things must be in the museum, correct? The light and so on?
The lights in the museum, most of the documents are in my office. A lot of those are village documents, because George was a village resident.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, we have a lot of stuff. So it's hard to keep track of it, but we're working on it. So if you ever want me to do another short thing, just let me know.
Certainly. Is the museum open or going to
They're
be
not
open?
open yet,
Not
no.
open yet?
I have not heard what the plan is. They started a lot of projects in the last year, and you know, it's hard because not everybody was around during part of this past year, but they are starting to meet and figure out what they need to do to get the museum back open, so
Okay.
keep
Yeah,
your
they're definitely
ears
working
open.
They're definitely working on it, I know.
Yeah.
'Cause they've even gotten now, they're cleaning out the attic.
Oh, God, no, it's been going on forever.
Oh, I mean, there is just so much in there, it's just unbelievable, the history. And it just needs a lot of work, and I think now we have got some volunteers that are going gangbusters.
Yeah, they're good.
They're pushing us to get more things done, so I'm happy, I'm so very happy with the people we have over there right now that are volunteering. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very appreciative of that, and it's very, very interesting to see and look at the history and development of the village and the town as well through the years. Thank you, Heather.
You're live.
Do I speak loud enough anyways? I don't know. No? Okay. Well, I would reiterate then that I do appreciate, and it is neat to see the development and history of the village as well as the town. So, thank you.
Nice job, Lynn.
Okay, at this particular point, I would open up the meeting and move to our public comment portion of the meeting. If anyone would like to address the board, please go to the podium.
Richard Walder, 20 Elm Street. First, I'd like to pass out a letter. It was originally given to the board 9/28 of last year. And then I would like to bring one point to this letter once again.
Can I have one for the record, please? Thank you.
the main point in this letter is, it's been like 3 years now, and we're still talking about what we're gonna do with our sewer system. Nobody seems to know. I've heard rumors of another committee going on, but I've also heard rumors that one person on that committee who was in favor of keeping our system was asked to leave the committee. So I don't seem to know what's going on. There hasn't been much in the paper or anything that really defines anything. But the main point of this letter is that back in 2017, the village did a study. There was a big study done on the sewer system, and it was shown at that time that there's other alternative than going with the town or keeping our own system. And if the village is really interested in switching, which I personally think is a poor move because it's been shown that for the next 15 years or better, village residents will save money if they stay with their own system, and it's kind of hard to forecast beyond 15 years. But the main point of this is that it's $1.6 million cheaper if the village really wants to get rid of their village sewer plant to transmit it to the county than it would be to go to the town. So why would the village be interested in switching to the town plant? The village has a long history of paying for the town. This town would not be the town that would be Clyde or North Rose or someplace if it wasn't for the village. The village was formed over 100 years ago to upgrade the town. The village put in the fire department. The village put in a water system. The village put in a sewer system. Without the water and the sewer system, we would not have had the industry, the early farming industry and food packaging that was done here, and we would not have had Xerox. The village is responsible for the growth of the town by bringing Xerox here. Without water and sewer, Xerox would have never come here, and without the village, the town would have never had those. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Peter Elder, 59 Dunning Avenue. I just wanted to, mine's really short. So I had occasion a few years ago to actually read through the industrial assessments that the village gets for its properties. Actually, I've done it a couple times before that, but I wanted to just bring to your attention, because I know that there's a lot of information you're trying to assess with regards to the sewers. It's a difficult, extremely difficult thing to do. But I did want to bring to your attention, because I hadn't seen it yet, that there's value, intrinsic investment value in our sewer system, and I would just encourage you to look at how that can be recovered if we do end up switching to the town. And again, I know that this is a complicated issue, don't get me wrong, but I believe that the sewer system is like $4 to $6 million, and that may be low depending on what I was seeing and trying to add up. So there's a lot of investment in our sewer system that has been made over the years by our village residents and our sewer users. And I would hope that we could recover some of that investment, and what if indeed we ever got to the point where we were somehow giving up portions or the entire system itself. So, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I believe that is all in terms of comments, so I will close the comment portion of the meeting and we will move to the scheduled agenda.
Yeah, Daryl, could I make a motion before we even get started?
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to file for an extension for the execution of the 1.4 mil grant, the finance agreement, provide all of the required documents to the Environmental Facilities Corporation, EFC, and to authorize Labella to prepare the same and to submit all no later than June 25th. I do not want to lose $1.4 million for our sewer system. This has been going on since 2019 when we got approval, and we've done nothing. Now, Ethan has tried getting our cooperation. He has sent letters March, May, trying to get us, and I don't think we have an awful lot that we have to put together in order to keep this going and get the money. I think it was what, 2017, and now, up to now, and they need that extra information. And it's just flow testing and stuff like that. It's not like big, huge, long amounts of work that has to be done. But we've only got a month. We have to have it in by June 25th, and nobody has been working on it. So I'm concerned, so I wanted this extension to at least get us to December. So hopefully, you know, we can still get this money. I don't want to lose 1.4 mil for our sewer system. So at least I'm making a motion, and hope somebody seconds it.
Aren't we, isn't the decision we're making before that deadline anyway?
Can you speak? I can't, you're not talking, I can't hear you.
I thought the decision which way was before that deadline though.
Ethan indicated he needs about 18 days or 18 to 20 days.
Right.
Oh, from when we say yea or nay,
Yeah.
he says he needs 18 days from that?
To be able to do the required work for the extension.
Right, because it's not a lot of work, but,
It's a $1.4 million grant. It's funny, because we got a letter
yeah,
today, or last night, I guess, or today, but it's a $1.4 million grant and a 0% financing on top of that, which is, you know, when
So he
we
can't
first...
just keep moving with the process and,
there's more information that's needed, that's all.
Yeah, they said they need,
By the 25th of June, and at the rate that we're going, I'm worried
so
that
what's
we're
the
not
cost
going to
of
get
him
it.
doing that? Do we know what the cost is to get this more information? And we
yeah,
just-
1.4 million if we don't do it.
Oh,
No.
Jay,
The
I
question
understand
is,
that, Jay.
No, I-
what additional amount would be required to pay Ethan to continue the process? Because that's what you're asking. You're asking that the process be continued.
Right, he's not the only one. Everybody has to contribute to get this going. It's not like it's a huge amount of money. I don't care if it was $1,000. It's $1.4 million that we lose that we've already been approved for.
So the resolution is simply to continue the process through, or
Yes.
ask that it be allowed to continue through.
Exactly, because if we can get it to, if we don't do it until the 25th, then we need the extension to get into December, and December is the last, I think. Otherwise, we lose all the money. So if we can extend it to December, since we've just been sitting around with it.
Not necessarily. There's conversation that's been going on between Ethan and I regarding that. But anyways.
What is the conversation?
Yes, what is the conversation, simply because we don't know, we've not
Part of the
heard.
conversation is we're going to continue work, we're starting work in early June, so that if a decision is made to go our own way, then the process is already in motion. If the decision is made that it does not progress, then by the 25th, it's dead.
So
And I
we just
don't know
wouldn't
if
get-
there's anything that was necessarily needed in terms of
There's
a
a-
formal resolution for him to continue work in developing that.
He requested several things here that I didn't think had been provided. The analysis, the current flows, I mean, it was simple information, but it hadn't gotten to him. So why delay it if we already know what it is, and they just need an update from the information that we gave them?
Well, there's no reason to delay giving
Then-
Ella information, that's fine.
Why don't we,
No problem.
why haven't we done it?
Why haven't we?
Yeah,
Well, is that rather than disseminated? Because conversation that I have had with him and
Mayor Barnes, sorry, you're not getting picked up by
conversation that I have had with him and that we will have next week, because I have a meeting scheduled with him next week, would provide him enough time to get that information. But if you would like, you can put that forth, and if there is a second to that, you can vote.
I would rather put it forth than to lose the 1.4.
I don't think we would do that. Go ahead.
My understanding from his letter is that we could lose it.
After the 25th.
June 25th, yes.
Correct. Which, Jude, would be the only way that it necessarily would be lost is if the decision is made by the board to go with the regional approach. If that decision is made by the 24th, which is our next meeting, and the second meeting in June, then it would be a moot point, the 1.5 million. If it were something that is in place and is moving forward prior to that time, then the decision at the 24th would already have been started that process. That's what I'm saying. So it's a process that would start in June. If you'd like to formalize that, then make the motion.
I would just, yes, that's the motion I make, because I prefer that we had till the end of December. I don't know which way anything's going to go anymore. There's been perception, lag, everything. I'm to the point of not trusting anyone anymore. Because there's too much misinformation and there's not enough information for our village residents. So that's why I'm just saying I don't want to lose the money because somebody sits around until July and then we don't have the 1.4. If we keep our sewer system, we need that 1.4. We've already been approved. So instead,
Right, so I don't think there's a concern to ask for an extension. I don't think there's a concern for
Well,
that,
that's what
unless
I-
you're saying they're gonna need to do more extensive work, and then there's this cost to it. We would have to do a resolution on a cost and actually have the itemized documentation of what
All
we're
that,
actually
the
gonna do.
only,
But if it's just getting information that Jake can provide and everyone already has, then you're not asking to expend money, you're just asking to
I didn't
Well,
say that I was
So
extending.
then-
I think there's a cost, going to be a cost associated with finishing it, I believe.
Yeah,
But, you know, there's a term service agreement with them, so we know what their hourly rates are. But there's a cost associated with it. I don't know exactly what those hourly rates are, but he needs about 3 weeks to be able to do this. So basically,
That all makes sense to me.
he'd have to know by next week
Right.
whether to gather all the information, prepare everything to be able to submit it and have it done by the 25th.
My point was that we just didn't give like an open check and all of a sudden
Oh, good Lord, no.
it's
No, no, no,
$50,000
no,
later,
no.
because, you know, we're not,
That's approval.
you can't hear me, my wife yells at me that loud, you can hear me, right?
no, but you're,
Well, you
I'm
actually
sorry.
go
if you turned your,
It's off.
It keeps going off on its own, it's the sticker you put on the button, it just,
We gotta get headsets like Madonna.
yeah, there.
right, so if we're just asking for an extension.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking.
Can't
for.
imagine there's any harm in doing that.
It's just playing safe.
Well,
I
that's
agree
exactly.
with you.
You know, and again, you know, like you said, oh, it might be a moot point, but just in case, I do not want to lose out on all that money.
I agree, I
So,
agree.
okay, that,
It's just playing safe with all their money. You know, we don't know what's gonna happen. I don't
Turning
wanna
my
be
back.
surprised with somebody saying,
Carol,
And you're sitting back.
I don't wanna be surprised with somebody saying, oh, by the way, you lost that because you didn't meet the deadline or whatever. I think it's just giving ourselves more time. It's giving us more time to work through this process and not have to concentrate on that going away. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
So, I mean, what
Yeah.
Judy wants to make that motion, I don't think it would hurt anything back to it other than an hourly expense by our engineer.
She did?
I made it.
I second.
We're good.
There we are.
Trustee Lancy?
I just wanted to talk, sorry.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Ippolito? Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
We're now moving to item 1.
Gee.
To approve the minutes of the April 22nd meeting. There are no objections to it. In addition to the deletions, I would ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Ippolito?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Yeah, where's,
Did he give us that paid back this time?
Okay, resolution to approve the claims and warrants. I've looked them over, I have a couple of questions. One of them would be the acquisition of a wheelbarrow. The village not have a wheelbarrow in the inventory. And
Yes,
if
well,
they
we-
do not, then this should serve for a number of years.
Yeah, we have some, but
$187 worth, yeah.
we use them, and then they get broken, they wear out, and,
That's actually cheap for
yeah,
a good wheelbarrow, that's actually
yeah.
cheap.
There's so, I mean, we're
I
using
don't
them with
know rides or
asphalt
what?
and stone and
Well,
all
yeah,
sorts of stuff in
okay.
them, so, yeah, I think we usually get one every year or every couple of years to replace, we got a few of them, and then we get new ones.
Okay, that was it.
The other question that I have is the McMahon LaRue Associates.
Yep.
I would
Question.
ask what
Yeah.
that's about.
That's the right-of-way stakeout for the West Main Street sidewalk project.
Oh,
So
West Side,
there's
okay.
about 25, with the right-of-ways that they do, probably 25 or 2,600 feet of right-of-way where they're doing where the
Yeah.
right-of-ways are and then finding them, and I guess it was quite a mess down on the west end of things, so. Get them all
She's
straight.
got one.
Yeah.
I see coming later.
You're gonna put the barrels up again?
Was it?
Plants?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
out
they're,
front?
yeah, we moved them all up today and cleaned them up and got them ready to plant. and-
No, I mean, they're all in the parking lot, like
Oh.
outside.
Yeah, they're out
Parks
there,
and truck.
yeah. Would, Carol, leave it on.
Sorry.
You want Facebook Live? You're gonna get the mic, please. That's all I'm saying.
In regards to that, however, I do like the beautification process that is taking place out in front of Village Hall, just to kind of pick up on it.
Nice job,
That was
Heather.
good, yeah.
Nice job.
Nice job.
Saw you out there on your hands and knees planting flowers.
Yeah,
Good
playing
job.
in the dirt.
Good job.
Clancy and John help me a lot. too.
John, too.
Yeah.
So do I have a motion to approve the claims and warrants?
I'll
There are no further questions.
second it.
Trustee Ippolito?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Mayor Byers? Motion passes.
Next, we have some general fund budget modifications as well as sewer fund budget modifications. I believe this is for preparation for end of the year. Is that correct?
Yep, just to clean things up and align the sorry, so that it looks better.
Yeah,
Same deal with the sewer fund budget
Not on.
modifications.
it's not on.
I think what we need are these little lapel mics. That would be nice. I know that's always.
Oh, it'd make it so much easier, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Of course, then you have to wear something to clip it on. But whatever.
Problems with what we're
Do I need to go through and read all of these? I believe I may. I don't know.
I'm not even building.
Why I need to read these all down? No.
You can do it all in one vote.
For the general fund budget modifications, we are taking, it looks like approximately $15,000 and transferring that to a number of different categories in order to bring a balance to the budget. For the general fund, we are also moving approximately $21,000 from the sewer fund budget modifications to pay for those, especially group insurance, as well as engineering professional services. So in terms of the general fund budget modifications, may I hear hopefully a resolution to approve, a motion to approve the fund modifications.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Alito?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And next I would ask for a resolution to approve the sewer fund budget modifications. Again, that approximate $21,000 from the budget to a number of different, especially group insurance and the engineering professional services.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Alito?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
That should help clean up and move things around for
Yeah.
the end of the year.
Make it look all nice and clean.
I still got a day left.
That's gonna take you a little longer than that.
Thanks, Marcia.
Sure thing.
Okay, next we have asking for authorization for the village clerk to sign a broker letter making Haler, Fryer, and Kuhn the village's official broker, insurance broker for Aflac benefits.
Why does the letter say regarding Broome County, New York?
I don't know, that's what they gave me. I thought maybe that was their address. I'll double check. I don't know.
Their address is in Albany, which is not Broome County, it's Binghamton.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll double check.
That's just weird, but then below it says account Village of Webster.
I know, I was wondering that too, but
Do they mean Monroe County perhaps?
possibly.
I was confused or something.
And they also have an address which is in Syracuse, New York.
That's where they are, yes. I believe Aflac is, this is Aflac's address. And Taylor is in Syracuse,
Right.
so it must have just been a typo. But basically, this is just so that we have a little bit of issues dealing with Aflac sometimes, just with employee accounts and things. So this makes it so Taylor can handle all that stuff. They already handle our medical. It's just easier. We're dealing with one place. And it doesn't cost us anything because they get the money from Aflac.
Okay, that's good.
It's no increase cost at all.
Nope. The village doesn't pay anything for Aflac. That's completely employee funded. Basically, Aflac pays somebody to handle the working with the clients. So,
But it doesn't come out of our pocket, so
Nope.
that's good.
same thing as Excelis.
So with, we need to clean that up, the RE Broome County or whatever,
Yes, sir.
before you send that on. I would ask then for a motion to authorize the village clerk to sign this when the corrections are made.
And I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Alito?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next we we have a, we have the tax warrant, and we need a resolution to approve the tax warrant. And I believe that this is, I'll read the beginning of it. You are hereby commanded to receive and collect from several persons named in the assessment roll, hereunto annex the several sums named in the last column thereof opposite their respective names for the following purposes. And it would be $546,803 for the general fund, $23,451 from the business improvement district, $229,710 from the sewer fund, for the sewer fund, commercial sewer, $7,980, being for all purposes a total amount of $807,944. The receiving of taxes will be from June 1st, 2021, to and include also July 1st, 2021, and can be paid 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. except Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays at the Village Hall. On all such taxes remaining unpaid after July 1st, interest of 5% shall be added for the month of July and an additional 1% for each month and fraction thereof thereafter until paid. I have a motion to approve the tax warrant for 2021-22.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Ippolito?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, Jake, I will ask you about this one. This is next, authorizing the mayor to sign a sidewalk easement for the following properties along West Main Street. The question we had, possibly the address is correct, 93, 109, 115, 119, 131, and 153 West Main Street.
And you should add one more, 159, and that's, 93 is the Fieldstone house that's next to the cobblestone, 109 is the cobblestone, 115 is the house next door, 119 is the one on the corner of Daniel Drive, 131 is the Emmanuel Lutheran Church, 153 is David Cook's office, and 159 is that little strip plaza there with the chicken coop and the dog salon there and things are in the back. So, but those are all the properties, and I know we discussed it before, but just to recap real quick, when we did get the right-of-way staked out there, we had little stakes in with little pink flags on them, and they went down to about 93, and then the pink flags turned into orange marks on the sidewalk because the right-of-way was under the sidewalk. And then when I got in front of the church, the flags popped up again because the sidewalk was completely out of the right-of-way. I don't know if the state, I'm assuming the state had an easement or agreement with somebody when these went in. You can only look online for go back to 1973. After that, you had to go down to the county clerk's office and research easements and things. And I felt it was just faster to write up easements than to drive downtown and research easements for all these properties. So far, we've gotten 93, 109, 115, 119, 159 back. I got a verbal approval for 131 today. I'm going to drop, or excuse me, 153. I'm waiting to get in touch with the church, with the buildings and grounds folks there. But when a person I talked to originally, it didn't seem like they were going to have any issue with it all. Just had to get it to the right people. So.
Is that 131?
Yeah, the church is 131. But I'd like to see if we get authorization to sign all of them, with the assumption, I mean, there's not an easement if the other party doesn't sign it. So as long as we're all good with them, and then as soon as they sign it, we keep going with them and make sure that we're putting the sidewalk in land that's either public land or land we have an easement for. And Don checked them all over, and I think I spelled everything correctly this time. Thank you, spell checker. So,
Yeah, they're on the same form.
yeah.
Spell checker Don?
Very often, and grammar. I need it.
Good.
Very good. So, I would ask for a motion to allow me to sign these sidewalk easements.
Make that motion.
Second.
Trustee Alito?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, we have a item here to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with the Board of Cooperative Education Services of Nassau County for the purpose of participating in a cooperative bid at a cost of $450, which will be used towards the purchase of a truck. I would just have a couple of questions on this here. Not necessarily for the purpose of purchasing the truck, but as I was reading through this, I see that the only item checked off is automobiles, passenger cars, vans, and trucks, and then obviously we're in the market for a truck. However, I was wondering if the $450 kind of buys into participation for any of these items that you have listed or that are listed here on pages 1, 2, and 3, because there are a lot of categories that might possibly be of interest to the village as they bid for something at lower cost than what we currently have. Is there a cost to buy into each one of these selectively, or does the 450 buy us into the whole thing? That was my question.
Well, that is a great question, and I do not have the answer to that, because I did not come up with that same great question. So I see this, the commodity up top, passenger cars, trucks, and vans on the thing. I don't see, it's certainly one I could ask, get the additional information for, because that's, I don't know.
This is something that allows us to purchase with a lesser cost to the village. I would be interested to know if this is a base amount that simply gets us into, or does each one of these have a cost?
To show of interest.
Yeah, and I would like to see, delivery location, let's say, let's pick smart boards, for instance. I see that on there. Say we want to get a smart board for in here. I don't know, this is Nassau County, BOCES, this is very similar to a few years ago, the Houston-Galveston Area Council, they have for purchasing, a lot of fire trucks go through that. We're in Sourcewell, it's a buying group kind of thing where they manage the competitive bidding process. They follow the New York State competitive bidding laws. And then they allow you, a few years ago, piggybacking became something you can do as long as there's a clause in there and say other people can join on to it. So I think this is basically to pay for them to manage that bidding portion of it. And then we can go in and say, okay, this has been bid already, here's what we're looking for. So it's a great question. I wish I had anticipated it or thought of it myself, but I didn't.
Will you just check that out for us?
The range of classifications, if you will, are areas that are open seemingly for competitive bidding. Seems something that we might be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Heather said she may have an answer in a couple of minutes if we want to hold.
Well, we can keep on going on, and when she's ready, she can.
Yeah.
Well, if we pay the $450 towards the purchase of a truck, what happens if we don't get the truck? Do we get the $450 back, or?
No, I think that's part of their, the competitive bid process or paying for that bid, so, or that, somebody do that.
But it says here, it would be used towards the purchase of it, so
Right.
if you don't use it, you don't get it back. If you use it, it's
And they offset it.
$450 that goes into it.
Yeah.
At least that's what John said. There's nothing in any writing that's in front of you that actually says all you have is, it says fee, applicable fee, $450. You know, so according to John, the $450 somehow gets credited towards the purchase of the truck. Okay, I don't see where it says that. You know, in this resolution, it's got town and school district. It obviously hasn't been edited for the village, because it talks about, you know, towns and school districts, and obviously the village is not a town or a school district. And the last part of the resolution, the very last paragraph says, the town agrees, well, you got to substitute village. So the village agrees to assume its equitable share of the administrative costs of the cooperative bidding program and all of its obligations and responsibilities pursuant to any contract that may be awarded by Nassau BOCES on behalf of the school district. Well, there is no school district. I think it means on behalf of the village. Now, I don't know what you're getting yourselves into. I don't know what the village's equitable share of the administrative costs are. You know, is the $450 a one-time deal, or if once you sign on to this, do they send you a bill annually?
Well,
I don't know anything about it.
Every time you want to bid on it, pay for it.
I don't know if that's the case or
don't
not,
know. No, it
but
doesn't state.
I don't know what the village's equitable share of the administrative costs may be. But you're agreeing to be responsible for it.
I don't like that.
No?
It says may be extended by mutual consent for one additional one-year period at the same price, terms and conditions. Doesn't say a lot. Want to see that?
Well,
I might recommend.
it sounded good, but not just torn apart.
Well, I just read what's in the resolution. You know, it's
No, I understand. I
Yeah,
understand.
there wasn't enough detail in there.
You know, table.
Is there time to table? There's not like a deadline, Jake?
No, I think this is a truck that we're looking to get to replace. I mean, so if it's another meeting, it's 2 weeks, and I don't think they're gonna be done.
Okay.
And nobody's building them now anyway, because they can't get computer chips, I guess.
Exactly.
That's the other problem.
Well, if you, also it says here, if you want to download a file of the bid award, the fee will be $75.
Of the bid award.
Yeah.
I don't know, can you take those questions and
Yeah,
get back to us? Sir?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm not missing anything. Low on facts and high on cost.
Be the name of the game, yeah. Thanks, Jay.
And where did you read that part about the terms?
Well,
Oh, that's that big thing?
that's just for a specific bid. The bid can be extended by mutual consent for an additional one-year period.
Oh, for the bid, okay, yeah, so if
It's
they,
not, it has nothing to do with
Not this.
$450 or
Right.
you joining this Nassau County BOCES thing.
all right.
I would ask that you find out a little bit more information than just the cross-outs. And I would assume it might apply to like a village tying into it, but it seems to me that it's pretty specific to towns and specifically to like BOCES, which, do we get things through BOCES normally?
No, they just bid this bid list is very similar to what Monroe County has. If you go on to Monroe County Purchasing, they put out bids for very similar stuff, but also a lot of highway things too. So this bid list is very similar. Nassau County BOCES must just be huge, and so they bid all the stuff themselves, so everybody kind of joins in. Monroe County doesn't bid vehicles, but sometimes we purchase vehicles off of Onondaga County or just Chautauqua County, those bids, so. But yeah, no, I think they're great questions, and I'll ask for clarification, get them for you, and then try to bring it up, and we put this on for next time so we remember.
It would be great. We could use it for some of the things that are on there, but even for the truck itself, it would be fine, but I would just like, I think, a little bit more
And sometimes it's
clarification
not,
than just a cross out of village and type, writing in Webster.
yeah. And sometimes it's not, it's even a matter of, that this bid is cheaper than, say Monroe County had vehicles, they don't have them on there, but this might not be any cheaper than Monroe County one or Chautauqua County, but it might be easier to work through, it might have ways that you can get options, some of them will just have the basic vehicle, and then other ones have options that you can add on. So even, sometimes it's an ease, and your savings is in your employee time, not having to go through, 8,000 hoops to try to order something. It's streamlined the process, so. But no, I will definitely get some clarification on those.
Thank you.
And so we have a lot of time too, anyways. And to enroll is October, right?
Oh, yeah,
I think it goes through October.
okay.
I think. But I don't know where you're gonna get a truck. I mean, they're scarce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The officers
there,
this year,
too.
they were very.
Trucks there also,
Oh, gosh, yes.
trucks, wood,
Mhm.
flooring.
All right, well, I would ask them to be tabled with further information, especially regarding the possibility of some of the other things that are on the list, depending upon what their costs would be. If each one of them has a, payment into whether or not you want to buy from that particular group
Oh,
or
right,
whatever,
yeah.
or does 450 cover the gamut,
Yeah, it'd be nice if 450 covered everything, but like you said, yeah, but if it's 450 to,
But still, I mean, if we know certain things can be purchased, it would be fine if that money that is put in is used for, is used for the purchase, is used towards, put towards the purchase of it, and you're not losing it.
Right.
Unless you don't use it.
Yeah.
You only want to get into it if you're going to use it.
Right.
Right. So, that until next time.
Do we have to do a vote to table, or can we just say?
Technically, you take a motion to table the item.
Okay. Then I'll ask for a motion to table the purchase with the cooperative educational service until the next meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Lindsay?
Aye.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Barnes?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have item agenda 8, which is a resolution to hire a seasonal worker for DPW, and we have $12.50 to $14, or as stated on our agenda, $13 to $14 per hour.
Person already got a 50-cent raise.
Yeah,
See that?
not bad.
and actually clarify, this is a portion of a person, I guess. We have one guy here uptown, a portion of a person, we can't get a portion, but a portion of their time, I guess. We have one guy here that's, typically a couple days a week, but sometimes with his schedule, he's, it's kind of back and forth. So we want to almost job share, where we end up having, one person for 40, or two people, but 40 hours total, to make sure that, with our water and things like that. Mike Northrop's here, does a great job, but he's, he's going to school, and he's also, he's a pretty accomplished drag racer, I guess, so he's busy on the weekends, and sometimes it means Thursday, Friday, depending on where he's, trailing around the country, so depending on where he's going, sometimes, end of the week he's not here, so we certainly want to encourage school and, the drag racing is something he's been doing for quite a while, so if we get somebody else to fill in there, that's.
Yes, you mentioned wanting to ask if you put it up a little bit higher to get someone maybe really good, so I decided to push the discussion for you. You're welcome.
Yeah, no, that's the problem. I mean, my one son worked at Dunkin' Donuts, was making $14.75 or $15 an hour.
Yeah.
I don't think we can, start somebody at $14.50 or $15 an hour, to be honest. This is a seasonal, part-time thing. And I want somebody that just kind of likes this kind of work, that doesn't, not just here for pay. If you're just here for a paycheck, I'd rather you just went somewhere else, frankly. But if you're here because you like this kind of work and you're gonna be involved in it, that's great.
What we need.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what we need, so.
Yeah.
I'd love to try to, get somebody started, and it's tough to find. I think it's gonna get a little easier now. They're changing the rules, from what I understand, on some of the unemployment stuff, where people have to apply for jobs, and then I think places that call, I just read the other day that if you're called in for an interview and you don't show up, that places can report that you didn't show up for an interview, which might make a lot of people show up for interviews. I don't know what happens if you don't show up for work, I guess, but at least it's encouraging. Businesses and people everywhere.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
There's signs everywhere, so we're definitely competing. But that being said, I'd like, to see if someone has the experience. I'd like to, try for 13 an hour, and also I was going to do it at the next meeting. I guess I was going to ask for Mike to be bumped up to that. I think he's $12.50 now. But with the new budget year, he's been here off and on for about a year, really, with his stuff to see if we can bump him up. I mean, sometimes it's 9 hours a week, sometimes it's 5, and sometimes it's, I think his high one was about 17 or 18, so.
Yeah, but in this day and age, 13 is really.
I don't know, I guess I'm not that old, but my first one, I made $2.50 an hour. I made, working 40 hours and I made $100. I've gotten into the triple digits, I was all excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm not that old.
Well, it's been like
I just
7
look
years,
old.
so.
So. There,
Yeah.
I had coffee, as you can tell, even though I haven't really
I
got
told
to.
you to leave that home.
I know.
Then I'd ask for authorization to hire a seasonal worker between $13 and $14 per hour.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Alito?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Jake, did you want to do a resolution for the other thing?
For the other one.
To increase the other one to 13?
Yeah, I mean, if we want to now, I guess we could. He's certainly deserving of it. I know like I said, he does a great job, so. But if we want to talk about it a little more and see, once the budget year starts, when we next year,
Okay.
next week and a half, when we make sure that people have time to think about it.
To read your face down.
But I've never seen a resolution in the past to give somebody a 50-cent a raise. Usually it's part of the budget process, and it is what it is. You don't normally take resolutions to give people raises.
I think when they're seasonal, because when there's
That
a
might-
resolution that we hired somebody at a certain rate, and then to change that rate, I don't know, if we don't have to, leave it up to them.
There's no reason they shouldn't do it. Should be.
Do you hear that, Marcia?
I don't think you need to take a resolution. To me, I think it's kind of having the Board of Trustees micromanage things.
I need it for
Go up to the $12.50 to go to 13?
Huh?
I need to ask for it for.
But
my-
you,
Well, that's because it's
but you do it as part of the budget process.
Okay.
And then you pass the budget and it's got raises built into the
And it's in
budget.
there.
And then you don't come back and say, okay, now, do the raise.
Okay,
it's
Marcia,
just-
can you please amend the budget to add the seasonal? Thank you.
So that was calculated, and that's only a portion of a person, remember?
For 50 cents, really, I'm telling you. Okay.
Yeah, we just, I 5% more than their raise would be discussed.
Seriously.
So I just, I guess continue on with that, we're gonna re-advertise for the full-time position. We're kind of waiting, I was waiting until we get to the end of the budget year partially. And we had somebody that was expressed an interest but has now changed some plans. That would, I felt would have been a wonderful fit, but they changed some plans, so I want to re-advertise for that, our full-time DPW position and get that now that we're post-COVID. We're making sure, but in that line too, we got the guys that have been here, everybody's obviously pulling in more when we've got one person that wasn't here. Luckily, we had a relatively light, light winter, so there wasn't as much of a burden on them as there certainly could be. But if we had a normal winter, it's a lot. But all the guys have been great and really picked up the slack a lot. And I'd rather, I want to get that other person in there now again. So.
A long time in coming.
Yes, certainly has. And now it's to Aaron.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, Aaron, this is your first presentation. We are expectantly awaiting it, but I would also like to say congratulations to you and Cheryl on the welcoming of a baby girl.
I appreciate that, thank you.
And
Congrats.
Thank you.
so
Wow.
we welcome your daughters here as well. They
Yep.
now have a sister.
They're
Wow.
excited.
Cool.
They're
Thank you.
very well behaved.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You should have them come up and present this.
I should, they'd be professionals.
Teach them young.
Yes. Am I doing just the agenda or the full?
You can do both if you want.
Okay. So number 10 for discussion was the fee schedule fine. We already figured out the fine part, so we actually do not need to discuss that. It's already in effect. The only other part was the deposit part. The reason that came into play for discussion was, there it is, sorry. Came into play was for the backlog of all the permits that haven't been called for final inspections. So we're trying to come up with a way to ensure that they're going to call, so we can get that backlog caught up, in the future. So I came up with, and I asked, some input, and we came up with $100 for the lesser permits, more residential, and $500 for more commercial. I know it sounds like a lot for, if you've got a fence permit, but you're adding on another $100. They are getting that money back, but it's just going to ensure that they call to get that inspection, so we're not sitting on it for a year, 2 years, and whatnot. I can tell you if you came and visited my office, there's boxes of past permits that, especially for 2019 and 2020, that just have not been closed out. And there's probably a combination of reasons why, but they still need to call for the closeout.
My initial thought is maybe better an internal process from our end instead of putting the burden on them and someone to, hold their money another $100 or something. Just my initial thought. I just don't know if there was processes in place or the tools to make sure that those things didn't pile up that you now have to deal with.
Right.
It's hard to tell.
Well, I think I don't disagree. Part of the challenge, I think, is that there's, part of the challenge is that, somebody's putting a deck in their backyard. You can't always, we don't know where they are in that process, and we're relying on them. And it's really to protect them, to make sure that they get their final inspection and everything's done, and when they go to sell their house, they don't need a CFC on their deck, and where is it? Because they never called for the inspection, they never did this. And just to make sure, like I said, I think decks are the primary decks and the simpler things. I mean, everybody calls for a final, really on a house. You would hope on an addition or on a house.
Yeah.
new build or anything like that, because they're looking for a C of O, and then the banks are gonna need those. But when there's not that trigger, there's not a bank or some other kind of authority that's looking for it, you don't know that it's completed. And the contractor, very often the contractor is the one who will pull the permit. Says contractor's building the deck, he'll pull the permit, he finishes the deck, gets a check. If there's no CFC, he doesn't, that's not, he's done with the job. And there's not a good incentive for them to continue pursuing a CFC if they're paid and they're moved on to the next 3 or 4 jobs they're doing. So I get the interest in it for sure. All right.
So that's, so, you know, if we want more discussion or, you know, table it, it was just a thought. And if we want to try the other checks and balances first, I'm obviously up for that. It takes more
We
time.
just gotta get some control.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the
absolutely.
bottom line.
And even since I've started, you know, some projects have already been completed, but they haven't called for the, you know, for the finals already. That's only, what, a short 3 months, I think,
Yeah.
I've been here. So, short of me chasing them down and keep calling them saying, hey, are you ready? Can we come to the inspection? Gives them a little incentive to call, to say, you know, we're ready for our final. But, like I said, I'm open to suggestions, opinions.
And also another, you know, the other way, at 50 or an extra $100 and they don't call, they may not care either.
Right,
They may not even
Exactly.
call and worry about all their concerns, so.
yeah,
You could be in the same boat realistically and still have a nightmare if people just aren't calling it.
right,
You may have to do the deposit and some checks and balances.
yeah.
Exactly.
So,
And after, you know, figured after a year, if their permit expires, you know, they forfeit their deposit. And like you said, we still have to kind of keep after them, but.
yeah, I'm really
It's still an incentive.
Right,
Still something that says, you know,
right,
people who might say that $100 is something I don't want to forfeit.
yeah, good.
Yeah,
And, you know, if we do try it and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't seem to be effective or doesn't work out, you know, when we do the fee schedule next year or whatnot, we can drop it or throughout the year, I guess. Or if we want to wait till, you know, next year or another time. Like I said, I'm open to some different suggestions.
I just think we need to try something to get some control on this whole thing. Didn't realize.
Yeah.
I have a couple of comments. Then I won't be heard. Okay,
Hey, why don't you stick it in her ear?
okay, speaking as the treasurer, I think it's a great idea. I think the work involved on my end would be minimal, easily manageable. And speaking as a homeowner who has not yet finished her fence and who didn't even know that she needed to get it inspected at the end, if I had had to put a deposit down, I would be better educated about the process. So, my 2 cents.
I'm not sure if you think it's a good idea, then I think it's a good idea.
Well, thank you very much.
Jake and I are like,
I just want to
See the halo?
That's the process that we were talking about, right?
Playing devil's advocate, though.
Yeah, there is now.
let's make a motion.
If checks come in to you,
Yep.
are they cashed or are they simply held?
They're cash.
Cash.
They are cashed?
Yep, we keep them in a liability account. Sorry. Oh, now you turn. Yes, we cash the checks and keep them in a liability account.
Just wondering, because it could happen that if the checks were just cash, somebody could write a check, not having anything to back it up, and just give it to you.
Oh.
And you have the check, but it means something that says $500 or $100.
It would be handled just the same as the deposits that we get for the gazebo or the meeting room to be rented.
Yep.
So then when you sign off tell Marcia.
Yep.
She writes out the check.
Yep. Yeah, and I asked everybody in the office what they thought, and good idea, bad idea, just, because obviously everybody's like, great. I wouldn't pursue it, but, yeah, we had some good
I think it
discussions.
would help, and and if it doesn't work out in 3 months, 4 months, or whatever, we'll say, well, okay.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but if we don't try something,
Yeah.
we're not gaining, we're not gonna,
Correct.
You would think that making sure that the deck around your pool was inspected and safe for your children would be enough of an incentive.
yeah, it
But-
just isn't.
No, we're also trying to incentivize people with $5 lottery tickets to get a COVID shot too, so.
Oh, isn't it? I tell
I think
you.
living might be a good enough incentive,
So,
but-
quite ridiculous, yes.
For a year of college education.
For $1 million.
Yeah.
Oh,
$1 million.
And that one, you have
This
that
is
one
great
woman
to
for
see.
$1 million. Because she got
Oh, we
it.
live in. I wonder how many people are gonna get multiple ones trying to win the scratch off there.
I don't know.
Yeah, right.
That's a good
That's
idea.
Let's make a motion for this.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the suggestion of $5 or $100 for a deposit for construction under $100,000 and $500 deposit returnable upon completion and
And
inspection
yeah.
for any item $100,000 or more.
Correct.
Very good. Yes, make it.
I'll second.
We should also probably include that after a certain time it's kept by the village.
After the 1 year, after the.
Well, it would be tied to the application process, I believe.
Correct.
Correct.
Yep, and then I'll state that on the application process.
Trustee Lancy?
Ask the questions.
Hold on,
Trustee
just saying, some shouldn't go a year on our end, let alone,
Right.
that's, I mean, if we can't circle back in a year's time
Yeah.
That's
and
part of
close out the
part of
project.
the issue. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what he's saying he is, he keeps asking them, and then,
Marcia, do you agree with that?
With which,
just say yes.
after a certain point, we should have the right to keep the money and let it go. That's not our liability anymore, it's our money.
But there's still
But
should be
yet, the
inspection.
liability lies in the construction and not having it inspected, correct?
No, in accounting terms, it's a liability because they've given us money that isn't, we don't really own that money. We haven't done anything to earn it. Only through the passage of enough time with the builder or homeowner, whoever, not doing anything, that entitles us to keep that money. But if they give it to us and we are obligated to give it back to them before a certain point, then we're on the hook for that.
You have no concern?
That makes sense.
Was that a year, right?
Yeah, once the expiration of the permit.
Yeah.
But shouldn't we have to inspect it anyway?
We will have to, and, even in our fee schedule now, if we have to go back to re-inspect something because of, because they did something wrong or whatnot, we actually we're supposed to charge for that now. So it's almost the same thing. If I'm taking my time to constantly try to go after them to get the inspection, that's taking time from us. If they're still not doing it, that's kind of recouping some of our time. And after the year, obviously, we're still going to keep going after them to get that inspection and certificate of compliance, occupancy, or completion. That's kind of recouping some stuff we've done.
I think I would need
Thanks,
some
Eric.
confirmation from Don on the legality part before I put it.
Well, I haven't looked at the code, but, I'm not so sure simply by, you may need to amend the actual village code to do all this, instead of just putting it on some application that, So, you know, a building permit, you take out a building permit that, and you say the permit's good for a year, so they have up to a year to start the project or complete the project?
Complete the project. And they can ask for an extension. If they come in within that year to ask for an extension, obviously the deposit's still going to be good because they've extended their permit.
So we'd obviously need some work, we need this written up a little bit. Not be so loose.
Yeah, you know, you adopt a new fee schedule at the organizational meeting, which is gonna be in July. You really need to do this now.
We already did it.
Huh?
We already voted on it. We don't need to do that for organization.
You could have just add
Mhm.
it.
We can amend that.
Yeah,
I think that's what
you can amend it anytime.
Exactly.
Aaron, did you say this is a pretty common,
Yeah, there's several other municipalities that do it. And if the board would like, I can get the copies or ask the other towns and municipalities, villages
It's not a
that
bad
do this
idea
as
to
well,
see their
to
process.
see what they do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that.
We haven't been doing
Yeah, I
it
like
this
that.
long, what's the difference?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's not gonna hurt to.
Not a terrible idea.
Yeah, I wasn't asking to say, hey, let's push it through. No, it's just, you know, to get the ball rolling
Exactly.
and see what the thought was.
I thought I had to have it in Russian.
I wasn't.
And with that, I'll also finish my report. Total of 12 permits, 18 complaints violations. We just talked about legal miscellaneous, 0 certificate of occupancies, 10 certificates of compliance, 0 certificates of completions. I'm currently working on the stormwater management plan and training. I also applied for a grant for training through Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District and was awarded the grant in the amount of $375, copies attached. I've already started the training classes and will continue until completion in June. Still working diligently to try and close out permits from 2019 and 2020. As stated previously, this will take a bit of time with trying to stay current as well. Excuse me, Brittany Woods subdivision is coming along. We're down to the last 10 units and we'll be nearing completion hopefully within the next 2 to 3 months for that. Greenbrier Crossing is just ramping up with their project and they've broke ground with the land clearing. Several other projects are going as well, and I'll keep everybody up to date on those projects as well. End of my report.
Sounds like giving them doing them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Between the new baby and the knee and everything else that's going on.
So relaxing.
Have all units put in $1,000 in the Brittany Woods except the last 10? For the,
Parks and Rec?
each, I believe, is that each unit is charged $1,000 into the Parks and Rec fund.
Yeah, it's actually 1,200, and I actually just collected an additional 6,000 units for some of the CVO inspections we did today. So they still have a small balance, but until those CVOs are going to be issued or until completion, they still have a balance, a small balance, but
Very good.
yeah, I'm keeping on. I won't give them a CVO until those Parks and Rec fees are paid.
Good job, man.
Very good, yes.
So Greenbrier Crossing has begun clearing.
Yep.
All the foxes are running across the street.
That's probably why we have 3 or 4 of them in the village currently.
They're right near my house.
And they are bold. They've been up on our porch. Yes. They are bold. I'm not quite sure what to do with them, but I'm going to think of something and
Yeah. We have a warning poster in the clerk's office with looking for all the foxes. As Daryl said that they got his chickens. Megan made it. It was her last thing she did on the way out.
Okay, then we are moving on to
Wanted.
item 11, cell tower, Marcia.
Actually, another good idea.
thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to check in. I know a couple weeks ago, I was solicited, I got some kind of form letter about possibility, some interest in purchasing our cell tower and leasing the land it sits on. So Jake and and I can't remember who else was on that, Daryl was on that call as well. We talked to a couple of people at the RATH, the company who was interested. They offered $2 million for the purchase and a 99-year lease on the land. So we did a little math, and assuming that everything stays the same, that we have
It's in your ear again.
we have the same number of renters and that they continue to increase the rent by 3% annually, we would break even after 18 years. It would take us 18 years to bring in $2 million in revenue from that source. So it's really, honestly, I don't have a strong opinion. It's really a matter of whether we want to keep the regular revenue or whether we want to have a big cash influx. The only thing I wanted to point out was that I would encourage the board to consider what could be done with a big pile of cash all at once. The last time I talked to Matt about it, we were actually talking about the funding that's coming, not about the cell tower, but he was saying that there are all kinds of matching grants and other things that can be done. I don't know, the offer, the $2 million offer was for 90 days. So there's still some time if you want me to continue to look into it. Initial response from the information that we sent out was, I don't know, lukewarm, but I didn't want to just let it drop. If you guys want to run some more numbers or what would you like me to do?
Yeah, I'd just like more information, and I don't even know how to get it, I mean, you know what you're talking about.
18 years to break even.
Yeah, but if you're gonna take that money and use it as a lump sum investment or whatever, you've lost, right now it's almost $90,000 a year, which goes into the general budget, which helps the general budget. Well, how do you make that up
Right.
over that length of time by
Right.
spending it? You know, you kind of lose that.
Yeah, and as I'm thinking about it right now, if we don't have a plan for that lump sum, I'm reminded of, if you get a big tax return or something, you don't have a plan for it, it just sort of disappears into the groceries and Amazon or whatever. That would be the worst case to me, that we would get this money and we'd lose our regular source of income and wouldn't make the most of what we had.
Yeah, I don't.
Can we get?
I think with
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
You
interrupted.
give up ownership of all.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, that's kind of what I was
No,
wondering,
with-
because if we could get more income, couldn't we?
Yes,
Potentially.
How do you get more?
Yeah, and that's kind of,
additional,
What do you mean,
So
by
you-
investing the $2 million?
no. In what we have right now, I mean, we
How
still.
do we get more income? It's not like there's new wireless carriers coming.
Well, there isn't today.
but there's gonna be
There
new
will
technology.
Come on, look at everything.
Might
that's-
require
I
more
think
space on
we're
the
proud,
tower.
there's 3 major carriers, they've combined. I don't see a
know.
4th
I'm
one
just
coming.
saying.
Yeah, there's
Something or
the
something else.
technology that we don't know. There's, I don't know, it's only speculation, but that tower could hold a lot of other stuff. Like a
you have
super 5G transmitter or
But
something
you have
like that.
competing
Just-
interests too.
Yeah, you do, but, you know, these companies could join and become one and allowing others to.
So I think we're all in agreement.
I don't think
So
we
we're-
should do it.
We're arguing a mute point because I don't think
Yeah,
none
it's
of us
kind
want
of-
to.
Yeah. Move,
Yes,
table it.
table.
Table it or?
No,
Forget it
just a
now.
discussion, but, so.
Okay, so no,
No.
No, but
okay, I'll let them know, thank you.
And
Thank you.
And Heather, our website says Tuesday, June 1st, village board workshop at 6 o'clock.
It's just in case we have.
All right, we'll just so you know. It's out there.
All right, I have one other item that I'd like to address. Item number 12, and that is Memorial Day. We, this year have as last year, a very different setup with COVID, but there will be no parade this year. But in terms of Memorial Day, there will be a remembrance ceremony. While there will not be a parade, the American Legion will hold their Memorial Day Remembrance Ceremony on Monday, May 31st. The ceremony will begin at 10 a.m. at the Webster Rural Cemetery, 1087 Ridge Road. Attendees are kindly asked to spread out on the grassy area for the ceremony. There will be no crosses or placing of flags excuse me, or flowers by the scouts and the youth, and they're asking that you not line also along the fenced area by the road. So along the grassy area for the ceremony and adhere to the current COVID guidelines. Any information additionally that you would like to have, visit the Webster American Legion Cottrell Warner Post 942 website at post942.com. That again is post942.com. So hope that we will see you there in this important memorial remembrance. Okay, we move now to Don. Anything from your attorney?
No, not really. I got an email from Charlie Genesi, the town attorney, about what the village would owe the town if the village were to, keep its own sewage treatment plant. And Charlie, he put in there that they think it's $93,000, but that's all based on estimates. I told him, I responded, well, it should be whatever the actual costs were. And I don't know why it's so difficult to get whatever they spent on the generator. You'd think somebody would have an invoice laying around somewhere that shows
So
what
went
they
from
spent.
350,000 to $1 million down to 93, that's pretty good.
Well, and then the end of the email said, a little confusing, that then rather than pay $93,000, they were asking that the village pay for a pump and I don't know what ancillary equipment might go with this pump in the event that there was some, worst case scenario that the village plant couldn't treat its own effluent, that they could pump it directly into the intake for the town. And I said, well, how much is this pump going to cost? And nobody's gotten back to me. I guess, Jake, in the past, you've talked to somebody about this pump?
Yeah, those are really, they're two different things, because they wanted us to pay for a new pump for the trickling filter that's down at the town plant that no longer turns. And we questioned that pump and or the motor for it. In fact, we looked at motors that we had at the sewer, or at the water plant that might work for that. It didn't have one. They were looking at motors again, they sent the wrong motor, somebody sent the wrong motor out. And then ultimately, we decided that, the goal of that was to provide a redundancy or provide backup in case there was an issue at the town, or at the village plant. So we have a well down there, so it was a decision made basically to put a big straw in our well, that it's wet well, that it goes through, our flow all goes through, and then we'd be able to pump it out of there, bring in a temporary pump and pump it out of there to the headworks or wherever we need to at the town plant. It was the most economical way. But right now, we just got a quote on it. That was about, I don't have it right with me, it was about 20 or 27,000. But it included 2 intakes, and we really only need 1, so I've got to get clarification on that. Originally, the engineers had talked about having 2, but then subsequent emails said, no, just quote us for 1 in a discharge. But we've been trying to get that for 8 or 9 months now. So we finally got something, so now I'm going to ask them to correct that. And see, that was different from the generator or the village share of phase 1, which frankly still confuses me, I guess, if the village does decide to stay and have their own plant. Any future upgrades were proportionate to the need, and the town said that we could no longer use the permit if we went on our own. So nothing at the plant, we wouldn't be using anything at the town plant at that point, so it seems like if the village went on their own, our liability for the phase 1 improvements would be 0, because we wouldn't be using any facilities at the town plant at all.
Yeah, well, that's not gonna happen instantaneously.
Right.
So,
We know that.
you know, there'll be, even if you kept the village, you know, it's gonna take a while for the village to go, you know, do whatever it needs to do to comply with its own speedies permit. So I think you'd have a tough time arguing that you owe the town, the village owes the town 0.
I just had a very easy time arguing.
Well, I know you would.
Not successfully,
I don't know if I would make that same argument with a straight face directly to the town supervisor. You know, so, but my point is simply, it just seems to me if you're gonna make a decision on or around June 10th, it'd be nice to have either, you know, what does the town want? Do they want $93,000 or whatever the hell the cost of the generator was, tell us what that was, or do they just want the $20,000 for the pump?
Cut his money.
Well, those are two separate things.
That's not the way it was written in the email.
No, but
Well, it may not.
But I don't think they copied you, I don't think.
Yeah, but if it was written like you could pay 93 or just pay for the pump for 20.
We
that's
are
how
not
cops
copied in on
pay
an
the
awful lot of
20.
times, so.
I know, Charlie, he sent the email to me, and I think it was, Daryl was the only one that was copied in on it with the village. But it was confusing to me because in the one paragraph, they say, you know, it's 93,000. But then 2 paragraphs down, they talk about paying for the pump. Why the town would wanna, unless they're just being a nice neighbor, you know, but they're willing to take 20-something rather than 93.
That's really nice. They're good neighbors.
But yeah, like you said, I'm going to email tomorrow the gentleman that provided us a quote and include everybody on there and get a clarification on that. You know, we have to remove some of the stuff. There's a couple sections of pipe and they're $3,500 a piece, I think, for sections of pipe. So it's 12-inch ductile iron pipe that's not cheap, so if we only need one of them, I only want to get one of them. So.
Moving to our clerk.
We have a couple things that we wanted to talk about just real quick. First thing is the thank you luncheon for the safety luncheon that you approved a while ago. We were waiting for Cobblestone on Main to open so we could support a local business. So we have that worked out, and it'll be on June 16th. But I had talked about a while ago, talking about doing like a retreat. You had said, Jerry, that you had done that, and you guys thought it was a great idea to do a kickball game or something. So I was kind of hoping you guys would consider that if we can do it in Chance Park, village in our village park. We're going to do that until 2:30 or something, and,
Jake's gonna get hurt.
I already read it by
The funniest
him.
part about the whole thing is this is extra that we got back for our workman's comp, and now I'm
He
gonna
said,
collapse playing kickball.
they all said, they said they'll write it if they,
Ironic.
Oh, God.
but I was hoping that we
I think
could
I'm gonna
kind of
take
do
that day
the
off.
rest of the
Yeah.
day with the whole staff. We've never done it as like an office retreat and do some fun activities on the 16th. You had already said yes, but we were worried about, you know, liability and stuff, but now if it's in our own park, I think it's okay.
I don't know. Okay.
I used to work for parks at the county, and
You ask
it's not
me
your
or
park.
our legal counsel.
Legal counsel.
What liability are you worried about? If Jake twists his ankle playing kickball, you know?
I don't think he's
He
gonna
can
be
file a
playing, but-
workers' comp claim. What liability are you talking about?
Well, there was just a lot of, they made it kind of more difficult at the county park, so I just didn't know what it would be like at our park.
The only liability you possibly have is if all of you got COVID and you took the whole workforce out once, then you got a liability. And we'd have to call him back.
I think it
Other
was
than
more
that,
when we were talking about possibly having, but that was,
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters where you do the activity from a liability.
so he's saying if you're at work, it's a work function, you get hurt, you get hurt.
It doesn't matter that, you could do it at Webster Park, at a county park, it's
No, you
still gonna kickball.
can't.
They won't let you play kickball in Webster Park.
I worked for, okay.
Yeah.
I worked for Monroe County Parks for a long time, and there are a lot of things, if you wanna, you have to get a license for certain things, like if you wanna like have any alcoholic beverages or that kind of stuff. I'm not saying I wanna do that, but I'm just saying there are different things they make you go to, and we have to pay. So that was the other reason why I didn't wanna do it at a county park.
All right. Good answers.
So that has, none of that has anything to do with liability issues.
Yes, okay.
Maybe you should have just let Marcia present this.
Are you?
That was good.
Make sure Aaron inspects it too.
That the things we have to do, we decide to do that. That's what I was told.
We're just following.
Would they be on time? Would they be on village time, or would they be off village time?
It'd be on village time.
So all village rules, regulations, and so on for the work staff would apply.
Correct. I don't know which rules you need though, but,
No small P.
No
Yeah.
alcohol, smoking, alcohol,
no,
etc.
right.
No weed.
See, we got the attorney saying the H word, we
You
got
gotta have a
him
button
saying
that
the
you
W
can cut all the
word.
mics at the same time too.
So are you gonna close Village Hall and it'll just be shut down? for-
From
We were
12 to
thinking
4:30. I would
You
like,
would be set up in here to stay. Run your office and be for a day.
it's originally, it was just gonna be till 2, but I thought, since you guys thought it would be a while ago, we thought it'd be great for us to do some activities. So
I
I'm
am
just,
saying that you are, you and Jake are responsible leaders in the office and in the back, and you guys could make that decision, I think, in my mind, about us. We just talked about having this board micromanage, if you want to put something on for your staff, and it's, I think you should be able to do
Right,
it.
just do it.
Just do it.
just need to cover my bases. Thank you.
And
Never
that
open my
date
mouth
is-
again.
That date is on the 16th.
Yes,
You're looking to close Village Hall from 12 to 4:30
yes.
with luncheon and a retreat to where? Kent Park?
You should like call another, like call Penfield or something, like have a challenge as a kickball.
You do
I can't agree.
like home run derby.
The other thing I just wanted to mention, I'll be quick, it's just we,
I know
Marcia,
this-
myself, and Joe got all of our tax bills done today. And they will be going out tomorrow for all the resident bills that don't pay their taxes through their mortgage will be mailed out on the 31st. Actually, probably, is that Monday? So so
Yes.
probably,
Yeah.
probably tomorrow, and then all of the bills that go to the banks will be sent out tomorrow as well.
Yay.
And then Marcia had something. Apparently you'd rather hear from her, so there's mine.
You're lucky.
Almost here 4 years, almost, but go ahead,
Wow,
Marcia.
it's gone by fast. Wow.
All right. I just want to take a moment. You only just got the budget to actual report and probably have not had a chance to look at it. But I would like to point out that Jake and Heather and John have done a fantastic job of managing their costs and their spending. We are winding up the year in the general fund, coming in approximately $850,000 under budget.
Wow.
Yay.
Sewer
Wow.
fund is coming in around 90,000 under budget.
That's excellent.
That is
Awesome.
Yes.
fantastic.
And there's one, Jake, you and your steel trap memory will probably remember. Clancy told me that he and the crew crack-filled 28 streets this season. And that doing that saves, do you remember what I'm getting at?
Yeah, it's basically, if you spend $1 today to maintain a street and correct and keep the water from getting down through it, and keep,
Yeah.
save you $5 in the future towards,
Yep.
additional maintenance, or if you have to do a whole rebuild on the streets.
Yeah. So they just did an awesome job, and I'm super proud.
Good job.
That is a really, yeah. You got a good crew here.
Proud of Heather.
Thank you, Marcia.
Jake?
Jake,
I'm gonna have Marcia read this part. There was an EFC letter, I think we already discussed it today. But just wanted to make note that you see there, Tree City USA flag back there, what's Arbor Day. And the mayor was kind enough to do an Arbor Day proclamation again, so I thank you. Not only is it one of the requirements to maintain your Tree City USA status, and have an Arbor Day proclamation or celebration, it's also, I think, an important thing to remember. We've got, a few thousand street trees, and then additional trees in our parks and stuff, and we really work hard to maintain those. And when we have storms and things like that, we don't generally have knock on wood, a lot of cleanup, because we constantly maintain these trees.
Don't do that.
And it's nice to see. Now, we certainly have challenges with the emerald ash borer that's coming through, and then this year there's gypsy moth and the cicadas and
The cicadas.
murder hornets and everything else. But the ones as far as affecting trees, there's certainly challenges, but we got a good group and a good plan together. So it's nice when, it's not nice when we have storms, but it's nice that we don't have a lot of cleanup all the time, I guess, so. And then just want to point out, next Tuesday, the 1st, West Main Street sidewalks are starting. That project, they're going from Corning Park towards the Fireman's Field, towards Sherwood Avenue.
Thank you, young ladies.
bye, girls.
All right, girls.
Corning Park towards
Hi.
Sherwood Avenue, and then they're going back to the other side from Barrett Drive, back down to Dean Spring, where it goes down to our salt storage. That's where we're gonna start and stop. And then we're gonna do a little short section of Corning to get ready for next year's going down Corning Park. We wanna get across our driveway, our parking lot entrances. They take a beating, they're kind of a maintenance nightmare, so we're actually gonna do those dead apron, and I'm waiting to hear, because NOCO was questioning it too. We have to go through the sidewalk. We gave them the option of doing theirs in concrete as well off of there, because it's a constant in and out, and we're gonna have it torn up anyway. That would be something that they're paying for themselves, so.
That micro machine or whatever, that's not, that one that you see Baker Street when they're done? It's like this on the gutter.
Yeah.
You just see it in and out like this.
It breaks off eventually, but it does go
So
over. It's
thick.
micro paving. And I hate when they first finish it too, it's very rough looking.
Yeah, it looks weird.
And then as cars are driving on it, it smooths right out. And it's that's it improves the driving surface, but it also helps keep the water out of, getting down in and cracks.
Neat
But,
machine.
yeah, it's neat. It's really neat. But that's it, I just want to give that update on West Main and that, and, that's it.
That's it, that's all we have.
That's all I have, I want coffee.
My goodness, Jakes. Thank you.
Record. That's a record.
Is it?
I have a couple of announcements in terms of what's coming up. Number one, there will be a presentation by the Joint Committee charged with the studying of the potential consolidation of the Webster Village sewer system with the town for a regional approach, pros and cons, and that will be next meeting, the June 10th meeting, excuse me. The village has already heard from the state what is required to proceed on its own, and that is something that I think we'll probably have a discussion on as well, but although we already know that we need to have a speedies permit, we need a disinfection system, and we need the second trickling filter. Also, on the 24th, the village board meeting on the 24th, there will be a final vote to be, continue to be separate or to regionalize our sewer system. Also, I would make note that next meeting on the 10th, there will be a presentation regarding the potential that we have for renovating both commercial and Donovan under a, I believe it's a BOD grant. So that will be something that will be addressed by Matt, yes, for the possibility of that. We had a discussion on that, so it will be good, okay? I would like to thank the village for their patience during COVID, while we have had Zoom meetings only. But now we are here in the boardroom, and we welcome with a degree of separation still, as we are still under the guidelines of the state in terms of COVID, but we are back in the boardroom, and we would look forward to seeing you come and join us. So,
Yes.
anything else anyone has for the good of the order?
I have one of the things you said reminded me.
Oh,
We
sure.
did get it's really, really fast. We did get a notification for congressional, a memorandum submission that we would be able to put in for, I think we got the notification Wednesday evening, and it was due Thursday at 6 o'clock at night. So we were able to get that done and submit our request to Senator Gillibrand's office. I think we had it actually 2:30 in the afternoon. We were able to turn it in, so we're pretty happy. So we'll give you an update. We'll see how that is. That was for the Xerox roads that we
Yes.
put in. We put that in for member items for transportation funding from Congressman Morelli's office as well. So, but they came across our desk, and so we'll send it out
That's
and see
good.
what happens.
Thank you. Let me
Thank
know
you.
if I needed my signature on it. I did not hear back from you, so I assume you were able to.
It didn't ask for one, so we just
He's
submitted
got it down pat.
There you go. Probably got my signature somewhere.
That's a good idea. Make a note of that.
Have Marcia do it.
No, he knows I have it unlocked.
All right. Well, I thank you all for joining us, whether it be virtually or here in person, and we'll look forward to seeing you again on the 10th of June. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
I'll second.
All in
All
favor?
in favor, say aye.
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 Marcia? Aye.
Aye.